Well, the statewide newspaper in Arkansas has sadly become a biased birdcage liner that is so anti-Trump that I don't even know why I bother subscribing. My daily newsletter that I put out has almost 20 times the number of subscribers of what's billed as Arkansas's largest newspaper. Well, that paper recently ran a guest column from someone who once worked for me, in which he recited most of the never-Trumper talking points, like the well-worn media tropes that Trump would be a dictator, he's morally flawed, and he doesn't like democracy. Now, none of that is close to true, but people are entitled to vote as they choose as long as they live. And if you're a Democrat, you can even vote after you die. There you go. But after claiming that he was a Republican and a conservative, he ended by saying that he would vote for Kamala Harris. Look, I am of the view that if you are truly a Republican or a conservative, voting for Kamala Harris would never be an option. And I want to make clear, it is not because she's a Democrat, and I certainly don't care if she's a woman or whether she's Indian, black, Jamaican. None of that matters to me. It truly does not. But I want to tell you what matters. I am pro-life, and I will not vote for anyone who is not pro-life. I just won't do it. She is a person who believes in abortion without restrictions.
We need to put back the protections that are in Roe v. Wade into law. Since the Supreme Court took it, Congress has the power and ability to pass legislation to put those protections back in law, and Joe Biden will sign that bill.
And I will not vote for any Republican or Democrat who doesn't believe that Israel has a biblical right to their ancient homeland and the right to secure it. Kamala Harris pushes for the ridiculous two-state solution, and she's demanding that Israel cease to eradicate Hamas, which has had a reign of terror against the people of Israel. Under Trump, we recognized Jerusalem as the capital, achieved the Abraham Accords, and bankrupted Iran instead of bankrolled them as the Biden-Harris team did. So whether it's her open border policy, the Bidenomics that's resulted in almost 20% inflation, the unaffordable cost of gas and groceries, or housing for that matter, quite frankly, we can't afford the progressive policies that destroy small business owners and decimate working-class Americans. But here are some things in her own words, in case you think I'm just making this stuff up. She wants to decriminalize illegal immigration, and she wants to give illegals free health care and education, and you, my friend, would pay for it.
I believe if someone crosses over the border, it is illegal, and you would decriminalize it.
I would not make it a crime punishable by jail. It should be a civil enforcement issue, but not a criminal enforcement issue.
So you support giving universal health care, Medicare for all, to people who are in this country illegally?
Let me just be very clear about this. I am opposed to any policy that would deny in our country any human being from access to public safety, public education, or public health, period.
Yeah, she just lets you pay for that too. And she would defund the police, in cash bail, letting criminals walk free after violent crimes, and ban you from owning certain guns by forcing you to give them up with a buyback program. Watch.
You know, for far too long, the status quo thinking has been to believe that by putting more police on the street, you're going to have more safety. And that's just wrong.
Does that mean you support proposals like what we've seen in Los Angeles, Mayor Eric Garcetti saying, take some of the money from policing, about $150 million?
I applaud Eric Garcetti. We have to have a buyback program, and I support a mandatory buyback program. It's got to be smart. We got to do it the right way. Eliminate cash bail. I've been a leader on that in the United States Senate.
Yeah, well, she and her vice president pick, they want to push gender-altering surgery for children and then have you pay for that, even when the parents don't want that to happen to their children. Her energy policies would make your costs soar, because she would ban fracking and offshore drilling, push the Green New Deal, and restrict your gas stove. How are you going to cook your biscuits, people?
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking.
So would you ban offshore drilling?
Yes. And I've, again, worked on that.
So I am offering a Green New Deal that has been described as one of the most aggressive and progressive.
Yeah, we're all excited about that, right? Oh, she's also against voter ID. But here's what's funny. She forces people to show a photo ID in order to get into her rallies.
People have to understand that when we're talking about voter ID laws, be clear about who you have in mind and what would be required of them to prove who they are. Of course, people have to prove who they are, but not in a way that makes it almost impossible for them to prove who they are.
What does that even mean? Oh, and she isn't just for increasing government and dramatically raising taxes. She wants to create a socialist system where everyone ends up with the same outcome.
So there's a big difference between equality and equity. Equality suggests often everybody should get the same thing. Well, that often assumes everybody started out in the same place, as opposed to equity, which is everyone should end up in the same place. And if you then understand not everybody started out in the same place, you understand some people need more. So we all end up in the same place.
Yeah, that's America, isn't it? We all end up in the same place. And if she gets elected, we'll end up in the same place. We'll be broke. That's what we'll be, in the same place. Look, no real Republican or conservative would ever vote for a pro-abortion, anti-Israel, gun-grabbing, tax-hiking, Green New Deal supporting, anti-police, open border supporting, and gender-confused politician. You got to decide whether to vote. And you might decide not to vote. But voting for a candidate who hates the policies and principles that you claim to support is just indefensible. But I'd say it's even worse. It's just plain dangerous. My next guest served 33 years in the United States military, rising to the rank of 3-star general in the highest levels of the Pentagon. He was the national security advisor to President Trump. After years of political persecution, he is here to share his story in the form of a new documentary released earlier this year. It's called Flynn, Deliver the Truth, Wherever the Cost. Would you please welcome a true American hero, General Michael T. Flynn. General, I think this crowd's a little different than the one if you'd gone to the DNC this week and spoke there. Probably wouldn't get that kind of reaction.
Yeah.
You know, your story is one that is troubling. You had one of the most distinguished records in the U.S. military.
Right.
President Trump picked you to be the director of intelligence and gave you one of the highest level jobs. And then the long knives came out from the establishment, the deep state. It must have been a shock.
Yeah, I say in the film, it's a great film, by the way. I talk about in the film this idea of how I served 33 years of my life in the military. 5 of those years, Mike, were in direct combat operations overseas in Central America, Caribbean, Southwest Asia, Central Asia, and the biggest fight of my life ended up being against my own government. And, if you watch the film, because a lot of people, it was 8 years ago when all this happened. So one of the things that I think people need to be reminded of is the damage of 8 years that President Obama brought to this country. And his idea about fundamentally changing America is a very real statement that he made. And as you fast forward into the 2016 campaign, which I think we're kind of in the throes of that again. We're in that sort of a war footing again politically, and Trump is, he's got a fight of his life again on him, and he's got some things that he's going to have to face here within about a month. But going into the White House, one of the dates, and it came out of my case, and it also came out of the Durham report, was the 5th of January of 2017. And the 5th of January, 2017, in the Oval Office, behind the Resolute desk, was Barack Obama, and he had in the meeting that time Joe Biden, Jim Clapper, Director of National Intelligence, John Brennan, Director of the CIA, Jim Comey, Director of the FBI, Sally Yates, the Acting Attorney General at the time, and Susan Rice, the National Security Advisor. That meeting, 5 January 2017, was the day that they decided they had to get rid of me out of the White House. And we have the evidence of it. It came out in the fight that we had going through after I pled guilty for a specific reason, and I talk about that in the film. It had to do with my family. And then we ended up pulling my guilty plea and then fighting it, and then the case ended up being dismissed, which was a blessing. But that day in the White House, and that evidence has come out a couple of different times in my case and in the Durham report. That's one of those moments where we have to look back at our country and say, is it that bad? Do we have people that are that evil? And what I want people to understand, both that are in the studio audience here and also that are watching from home, that this is truly a good versus evil moment in the history of the United States of America. And the one thing that...
Yes, that's exactly what it is, John.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And the one thing that people need to understand is that, in the long arc of history, whether it's our country or any empire that's existed over time, good always triumphs over evil, and we will continue to do that. We will continue to triumph over the evil that we are facing right now, and you just showed that in some of your monologue with the current, heir apparent, in Vice President Harris. So we're in a very difficult time. I will say for the Christians that watch this show, the Christian voting bloc in this country, as you well know, is the largest voting bloc in the country. And we cannot, as Christians, sit this one out. Yeah. And this doesn't mean that we're going to force our attitudes and our values and our religion on anybody. That's not what I'm getting at. What I'm getting at is we cannot have, and I think in 2020, we had 30 million Christians sit the presidential election out. So about 65 to 70% of this country are Christians, registered voters that are Christians. And I think that, people have to show up. We have to get out there and then vote on the values, right? Vote on the values that you're supposed to espouse, like life, family. I mean, that's where we really have to engage. And I use this phrase, local action has a national impact. And what I mean by that, and it's kind of me being here and some of the things that I do around the country today, I go in there and encourage people at the local level to get involved in their local communities and take these local communities back.
I'm going to tell you, we're going to keep General Flynn here because there are so many more things I want to bring up with him. Do not miss the opportunity to see the film Flynn. And we're going to be right back more with General Michael Flynn. But first, Keith Bilbrey is going to tell our audience what else we have coming up on the show tonight.
Well, still to come, comedian Tommy Morin has a few jokes up his sleeve, and the legendary Pure Prairie League takes the stage. All that and more on Huckabee. Huckabee.com and sign up for his free newsletter and follow @GovMikeHuckabee on X.
Welcome back. That was the music that Trey Corley and the band was playing from Argent, Hold Your Head Up. Our guest is a person who has held his head up through some of the worst experience any American has ever had. And we ought to be celebrating this hero, and instead, he went through a living nightmare. I'm talking about former National Security Advisor to President Trump, General Michael Flynn. His new documentary that explains what he has gone through in the years since he was targeted by our own government. You were combat tested. Yeah. You had a little more resilience and ability to deal with this. The average American would never have been able to go through what you were put through by your own government that you had served for over 33 years.
Yeah, I don't know what people do who have to go through that. And for everybody here and that's listening, the conviction rate by the Department of Justice, which has about a $30 billion budget, the conviction rate is roughly at 97%. So they don't seek the truth. What they seek is the conviction of an individual, because that's how they get incentivized. So, you know, just watching that clip there, I mean, I've watched this movie over 100 times. We've showed it all over the country. We get great feedback. And it's very emotional for me because you saw that clip of my son. And one of the principal reasons why I pled guilty, and I talk about this in the movie, is because of the issues that he was going through that had nothing to do with legal stuff. It had to do with mental health. Yeah. And the government, the FBI, the DOJ, they knew that. And so they took advantage of that. And, you know, and I'm one of those people, it's like my family, I would die for this country. I will die for I'll give my life for my family. So it is a fascinating and inspiring story of survival. And one of the things that comes out of it, and you meet half of my family, I have 9 brothers and sisters. One of the things that comes out of it is this idea that we can defeat this darkness. We can drive this darkness out of America. And my story, what my wife and I wanted to do is we wanted to use my story as the vessel to tell America this is how we can survive this mess that we're in right now with these people that are in charge of our country that are really turning this country, you know, into something that it shouldn't be.
General, I think one of the great gifts that this movie provides for all Americans is that, number one, if this can happen to you, exactly, a celebrated, highly decorated, 3-star general, it doggone sure can happen to any of us.
It does too often.
But the second message, you show not to give up and also to keep hope alive about this country. People need to see it, and they need to thank God that you were willing to go through the very fires of hell itself for this country and your honor. You came out on the other side the right way. I want you to give General Flynn your warmest appreciation. He is an American hero for us. You can visit General Flynn's guest page at Huckabee.tv for the information on how to watch this fascinating documentary. It is one you do not want to miss. So please, go to the website, find out how to get it. It's available in a lot of different ways, and I hope you will. Keith Bilbrey is standing by to deliver the news on who's coming up next. So, Keith, we're going to let you take it away.
Well, don't go anywhere. Funny man Tommy Morin will make your belly hurt with laughter when we come back. Then filmmakers Stephen Kendrick and actor Aspen Kennedy join Mike to preview their brand new film, The Forge, right here on Huckabee.
Disasters can hit at any moment, often with monstrous effects. Our partners at Samaritan's Purse are dedicated to providing aid all around the clock to individuals and communities who are affected by these crises worldwide. The vital network is made possible through your generous support for Samaritan's Purse. If you haven't had the chance yet, I hope you'll reach out to our friends at Samaritan's Purse today. You can call them, you can visit their website, or you can use the QR code on your screen and go directly to them. I hope you'll discover how you can contribute to their global efforts and make a meaningful impact. Thanks for helping Samaritan's Purse, and God bless you. Tommy Morin was a fast-rising comedian until he had literally a come-to-Jesus moment, and he walked away from comedy to become a pastor. But while sharing his testimony at a women's prison, he realized that it was his humor that was helping to reach the audience with the message of Christ. Well, I'm so glad that he realized that comedy and ministry could go hand in hand. He now combines hope and humor as a popular speaker and comic. His upcoming dry bar comedy special is called I'm Startin' Now. You'll understand why he would call it that. Welcome the manic Hispanic Pastor Tommy Morin.
All right. Howdy! What is happening, Nashville? Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here tonight. This is absolutely amazing. I am a pastor and a comic, and that's how I know that and the platypus that God has a sense of humor. Have you seen the platypus, this poor thing? It's got the mouth of a bill, it's got webbed feet, and the back end of a beaver. This poor thing doesn't know whether to build a dam or quack, all right? Hispanic and Italian, any Hispanic? No, yeah, maybe one. Yeah, you, me, and the guy who valeted my car, sir. Thank you so much for raising your hand, I appreciate it. And Italians, if you are Italian, if you're this far south and you're Italian, you are in the witness protection program. Okay, that's how that goes. There's no getting around that, no. And I was raised in Jersey, so what's happening right now here is I say daughter, water, quarter, and then I move to New England, so I say ka, fa, ba. So I sound like I'm walking around with a constant concussion at all times. That's how that is. I wound up marrying a native Massachusetts girl, all right? So raised by 4 brothers in a very strong Italian family. So in my mind, it sounds like I'm married to Joe Pesci's sister. So I hear this first thing. So you're gonna get out of bed or what? Look at you, Mr. Comedian. You're funny how? Funny like a clown? Ha, ha, ha. It's 6:30 in the morning. Let's go. Chop, chop, flatfoot. All right, so let me tell you something, you filthy animal. You stay in bed any longer and I feel you're full of lead. Yes, I love you. Now let's go. Chop, chop, chop. Move it, move it. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes. Years ago, just so I clarify, because I know you're looking at me like it could have happened yesterday, I stole a candy bar, and I got caught for it. I mean, this is like the epitome of breaking a commandment. So my mother that day decided she was gonna actually teach me or inspire me to never do it again with her BFF, which was known as the belt. Some of you have the same BFF, okay? Put it away, it's 2024, you'll go to jail. Oh yeah. So my mother actually used to smoke 2 packs of Winston Reds every day. And in the middle of her encouraging me to not steal again, my mother all of a sudden is on her hands and knees, wheezing and gasping for air, lifts up her arms like a referee and goes, "Time out." And I didn't have any cool superhero role models growing up as a kid. Like, all my friends had cool superhero role models that they could relate to. But I kind of grew up in a Caucasian neighborhood. And so my friends had, like, Spider-Man. That's a broke white dude. Batman. That's a rich white dude. Captain America. That's an actual thrift shopping white dude. Okay. Yeah, the only thing I had close to a superhero that I could relate to was Zorro. That's a superhero for low-income housing, okay? His superpowers, accessorizing, embroidery, and graffiti. Thank you so much. Have a nice day. But I loved Elvis growing up as a kid. I always wished he was Elvaz. He would have been singing, "You ain't nothing but a Chihuahua mamacita." Sir, is this your wife over here, sir? Can I sing to your wife, sir? Can I sing to your wife? Your wife is looking at you going, "Sing, sing." Aren't you lonesome tonight? She's nodding her head yes. Could you maybe give me a little something?
Sure. Yeah, me?
Yeah, you. Yeah, behind the piano.
Yes, I can help you. Yes.
You won the Grammy, didn't you?
Oh, wow.
I just need a little help here. Aren't you lonesome tonight? Don't you miss me tonight? Aren't you sorry we drifted apart? Does your memory stray to a bright summer day when he kissed you and called you sweetheart? Do the chairs in your parlor seem empty and bare? Do you gaze at his forehead and wish he had hair? Is your heart filled with pain? shall I come back again? Tell me, dear, are you lonesome tonight? Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you so much. You guys have been amazing. Thank you.
That was great. Oh, man. Elvis Week, and he blesses us with the Hispanic version of Elvis. Hey, be watching for Tommy Morin's upcoming dry bar comedy special. It's called I'm Starting Now. You get the drift now, right? And to book him to speak to your church or your event, if you go to Huckabee.tv, we will get you connected to Tommy. Right now, Keith is starting to tell us about everything that is exciting, and it's coming up next because he says so, right here.
Oh, you do that well for a guy from Arkansas. That's right. Up next, Stephen Kendrick and Aspen Kennedy discuss their new movie, The Forge. Then it's another installment of In Case You Missed It, featuring the most hilarious news of the week. That's all ahead on Huckabee.
Welcome back, everybody. One of the reasons I'm standing over here is because I always like to get as close as I can to the best band in America, Trey Corley and the Music City Connection. Would you give them a big old hand? The Kendrick brothers have created many hit faith-based movies like Fireproof, Facing the Giants, and War Room. Their powerful new film opens August the 23rd, and it's called The Forge. Please welcome the writer, producer of The Forge, Stephen Kendrick, and joining him is the star of Kirk Franklin's The Night Before Christmas, the BET series Kingdom Business, and now the star of The Forge, Aspen Kennedy. Give him a big welcome. Now, before the show, I said I'm not even going to talk to Stephen. I've talked to him before. There's nothing exciting about him. But Aspen.
Yes.
This is a film, you shine, man. I mean, it's very powerful, and it's the story of a kid that needs a father figure.
Yes.
When you read this script, did you identify with it? Because I know that faith is a big part of your life, and you are a believer.
Yes.
So this film puts you in that kind of role, but when you read it, did you say, yep, I want to do this?
When I first read it, it truly showed me that God was so present in my life, even growing up, because like you said, I didn't have my father growing up, but you know, I felt seen because I related to Isaiah so much of having a praying mother and the Lord being true to himself and being my Heavenly Father, and it's such a blessing to be a part of this project.
You grew up in Memphis. Did you think, as a kid growing up, I'm going to be an actor someday? Was that part of your dream?
I actually did a few commercials and print work. My mom, she registered me for some projects, and I worked on that, but I had no clue at all. I love basketball, just like Isaiah in video games. So, yeah.
I have a feeling that acting may take you further than video games and street basketball, but it's just me talking. I don't know for sure.
Yes.
Stephen, talk to us about the development of the script, the film, and one of the things I always love about Kendrick Brother Productions is that the film always is accompanied with a study guide. There's something that after the film,
that's right,
you don't just walk out of the theater and say, oh, okay, that's great, but there's actually a follow-up.
Well, we believe that movies ought to not just be delicious and entertaining, but nutritious and life-changing, you know, and so we will spend months in prayer.
I like that.
And we'll spend months in prayer saying, Lord, what's on your heart? What direction do you want us to go in? And the Lord focused us back in on discipleship. It was Jesus's priority throughout his ministry. He ends by calling his disciples to go out and make more disciples. I think right now we have a generation that's digitally connected, but very relationally disconnected.
Yeah.
And this whole idea of not just preaching from a distance, but engaging people in close relationships, it's how Jesus modeled it. And so we show it in vivid display in The Forge. And it takes you on an emotional roller coaster. You're relating to Isaiah and his fatherlessness. You're relating to a praying mama who doesn't know what to do. But this also coincides with War Room. We bring back Miss Clara in this movie. Priscilla Shire actually plays two roles. Priscilla plays Elizabeth and her twin sister, Cynthia, and they actually interact in the movie.
Stephen, you're just cheap. You wanted to get one actress to play two roles. Come on, you and your brother Alex, I know what you were thinking. If we hire Priscilla, she can play two roles. We don't have to pay her one salary.
Twice as good.
There you go. That's what you were doing.
But the movie's full of laughter, but it's very heartfelt. Aspen is a world-class actor. He does an amazing job. The forgiveness scene in this movie is so raw and so real. When he forgives his dad and calls on God to be his father, people are weeping in the theater. And when people walk out of seeing The Forge, they're either saying, I want to be discipled and learn how to fall in love with Jesus, or I want to go pour into somebody else and help them learn to fall in love with
Which
Jesus.
is exactly what you can hope for.
Yeah.
Aspen, the role of Isaiah, this is a character who really goes the full spectrum of rebellion and anger, all the way to a point of resolve.
Yeah.
That means that as an actor, you have to really work through an extraordinary level of emotion. Was that the most challenging part of the role you play?
It was actually, it was a great challenge because it reminded me on a day-to-day basis of inviting the Lord in my heart to work through and to express his message, because it's such a powerful film. It glorifies the Lord, and so many hearts will be touched, so it just inspired me to stay in that place of reverence, to invite the Lord into my heart every single day. And every single scene we had prayers, and it just was a testament that it was an experience for me as well. It impacted my heart, and every time I see the screen, it touches my heart as well, so it definitely was a blessing.
And there are young men all over this country who are a lot like the Isaiah character.
Yes.
Angry, bitter, father has disappeared, being raised maybe by a mother, grandmother, praying for them, but not able to break through and understand the manhood that is trying to come out of that young life. I think that's one of the reasons this film has such power, is because it touches where a lot of young men are. Do you find, even among your peers, that that's a real issue for many of the young men?
It is a real issue because a lot of times if they don't have their father in the home like I didn't, again, I was graced to understand who God was before I even picked up a Bible. So once I read the Bible, I'm like, this is God. This is who he said he is. Like his promise says, I will be a father to the fatherless. And I'm a testament of, even though I didn't have my father, the Lord stepped in and showed me and put a desire in my heart to know him more. So once I got this script, I was like, okay, Lord, this is what you've done in my life privately. And you allowed for me to deal with this in my individual life. So now I could be a vessel for this project so many other people can be set free from unforgiveness or father issues.
I think that after hearing both of you, everybody who's watching this show is going to say, I got to go see The Forge. And I hope that they will, and take others with them, buy tickets for people that may not be able to afford them. The Forge opens nationwide on August the 23rd. It's coming up right away. If you go to Huckabee.tv, we have links not only to the theaters and how to get the tickets near where you live, but also to a program about ticket gifting so that you can share the film with people who might not go unless you help them by getting a ticket for it. Also, there'll be a link to the Kendrick's books, the study guides like this one. It says Devoted to Jesus. And I think you'll find a wonderful, wonderful tool to take the movie beyond the theater. Speaking of taking us beyond where we are, Keith Bilbrey is going to take us on to what we're going to see when we forge ahead in the show. Keith?
Well, stick around for the funniest news you won't get anywhere else with In Case You Missed It. Then get ready to groove with the legendary music of Pure Prairie League. You're watching Huckabee. Huckabee.tv and get your very own made in the USA Huckabee mugs, t-shirts, and more.
Well, there has been so much craziness in the major headlines recently that we haven't had time to check up on the unimportant crazy news. So let's rectify that with another edition of In Case You Missed It. All right, speaking of insane headline news, our first story involves the presidential election. A Texas math teacher, formerly known as Dustin Ebby, decided that he wanted to run a protest write-in campaign against the major parties. So to attract enough signatures to get on the ballot, he legally changed his name to literally anybody else. I wish good luck to Mr. Else, but honestly, I don't think this is going to work. I mean, after Joe Biden dropped out, the Democrats already nominated literally anybody else, right? There you go.
I like that first name, though, literally.
Literally.
Hey, literally?
Literally. Hey, you know how some fragrances claim to make a man smell like a man? Well, one new fragrance really does, and that man is Colonel Sanders. KFC has marketed a man's fragrance called Number 11, Eau de Barbecue. I'm not making this up.
Listen, that's custom made for you.
Absolutely, it is.
You love barbecue.
I mean, it smells like KFC chicken with 11 herbs and spices plus barbecue sauce.
Can you cook chicken in it?
I think you could. And look, I don't know if this will help you attract women. It might attract other men.
Yeah.
May not be what you intended.
Yeah.
And it will definitely attract a whole lot of dogs.
Oh,
it will happen.
They'll follow you around?
Here's the bad news. It sold out immediately. It really did. Now, I'm baffled. I mean, are there really that many men who don't smell enough like fried chicken and barbecue sauce already?
Got me.
Wow. Hey, I'd say if that's your problem, you don't need a new cologne. You just need to move to the South.
That's right.
Here's our cute animal video of the week. This fisherman demonstrated how to open a can of beer, Florida style, with a little help from a passing alligator. Watch. Watch this. What kind of nut sticks his hand that close to the mouth of an alligator? Look at that. Now, I've got to give a disclaimer, and let me be very clear. Kids, do not try this at home, because beer is very bad for you. That's... All right, until next time, just remember, we read the news. If you enjoyed this video, I hope you'll consider clicking the subscribe button below and the notification bell next to it so you don't miss any of our future videos when they go up online.